All right, so hello, Calcars. We are going to go through the mini quiz from 424. This one is a really tough one because it covers a bunch of different concepts. Like I said, buckle up. All right, so we've got the graph of f is here. And then it also tells us that g is given by g of x equals the integral from -4 to x of f of t dt. So first thing, g prime of x is going to equal the derivative of the antiderivative, which is going to be f of x. So now this is the graph of f. It's also the graph of g prime. All right, so now we have that. So I look ahead at some of my information and I'm finding derivatives of h, which I already have in my chart, and derivatives of g, which is kind of connected to the graph. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to come up with the chart to make life a little bit easier. And g prime of x. All right, so the graph of g prime is the graph of f. So if I want g prime at -4, that's just the value of the graph at -4. So that's -3. For -1, g prime is the graph at -1 is at -2. For 0, the graph g prime is at 0. For 1, the graph is at 2. For 2, the graph is at 0. And for 3, the graph is at -2. So that is what g prime is, because g prime is the graph. Now, if we want to find g of any of the values, we're going to have to do the integral. So for the first one, if I want g of -4, it's going to be the integral from -4 to -4, and that's 0. Now, likewise, if I want the next one on my list, which is -1, I would do the integral from -4 to -1. So that's the area under the curve from -4 to -1, and we're shading in the proper direction. So that's going to be registered as a negative. Oh, my mailman is here. You hear Riley barking. So the area of that trapezoid is going to be 1/2 base 1 plus base 2, so -3, so 3 plus 2 times my height, which is 3. So we've got 5 times 3 is 15 over 2. But it's below the x-axis, so it's going to be negative. So -15 over 2. All right, so then for the same thing for the next one for 0, we're going to just replace that with a 0. So we're finding the area under the curve from -4 to 0. So now we're doing from -4 to 0. So we're also including with that triangle. So we're going to add to it 1/2 base times height, 1 times 2. But that's negative, so because it's below the x-axis. So we're going to do -15 over 2 plus a -1. So that's -17 over 2. All right. So then we keep going on with this. We're going to do for the area under the curve from -4 to 1 is my next one. So then we do this triangle. So then we add to it 1 because the area of that triangle is 1. So it's going to be again -15 over 2. All right. Then we do 2 So we do the area under the curve from -4 to 2. So that's also adding on another 1 because that triangle is 1. So that's going to be -13/2. All right, and then we do the last one, which is to 3. So that's going to be that area under the curve, that's a -1. So we go back to -15/2. All right, so now we have the chart done for this. So now I can find the derivatives of the equations a little bit easier now that I have a reference instead of having to do the area under the curve each time or something like that. So it gives me a little bit more guidance with doing that. So I'm going to pause right here and then I will pick up the questions below.